Hey everyone, welcome to the self-paced workshop on overview of cybersecurity basics for 6-8 teachers. Before you go any further, you're going to want to make sure that you have access to our curriculum. You'll be able to get all of the course information we're going to go through today. And to do that, you're going to go to our website, cyber.org, and you'll see right here on this screen where it says to sign up. You're going to click on that, and you'll see this pop up at the bottom, sign up to access curricula. We have a few questions that we're going to ask you. And to make the process a little bit faster, we do ask that when you sign up for curricula that you use your school email address, and that will make the process speed up just a little bit faster, but it will take 24 to 48 work hours before that can be approved. So we want to make sure that you do that just as quickly as possible. Okay, so just to kind of explain this process for the self-paced workshop, um, at the very end, there is a Google form that you can complete, and that Google form is going to be used as evidence of going through this course, and we'll be able to issue a certificate. So to access this Google form, you're going to check your email for a registration confirmation from Eventbrite, and then scroll down to the bottom of the email. You got to keep looking. It's not going to be at the top. You're going to scroll a little bit, then scroll just a little bit more, and you're going to see a section called Additional Information, and that's where you will find the link to the Google form. For me, it would be helpful as I'm watching this PD to have that form pulled up at the same time. You don't have to do it that way, just a suggestion. And the PD will take approximately 90 minutes, and that's not just watching us, listening to us talk, even though that would be okay. It's going to also include those opportunities for you to explore the course and then to answer those questions on your Google form. And what's so great about this being a self-paced PD is you could do a little bit of it one day, pause it, a little bit more the next day. So you have all the way until the end of where Eventbrite had listed the ending date for the PD to get everything completed. So there's plenty of time for that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. We are so happy that you're able to join us for this PD. And I'm Charlene, and I've been a curriculum development specialist with ORG for a little over 3 years now. Worked primarily with school in science, STEM, robotics, cyber, and I truly love that I'm still able to provide support to teachers here at cyber.org. And I am joined today by my fabulous friend and coworker, Linda Morgan, and I'm going to give her a moment to introduce herself.
Hey friends, Linda Morgan here. I am also a recovering educator coming out of the classroom after 14 years, teaching just about anything middle school except for social studies. I did not take that certification test because I did not want to have to teach that. But my favorite has always been science and math. And so when I was asked how I felt about robots, I was like, oh, great. So I kind of approached the computer science from a voluntold position and have really never looked back. So I'm super excited to now be working with my friend Charlene Cooper at cyber.org to help bring you guys curriculum and professional development that is approachable and can be used in your classroom very easily. So you're going to see just how easily you can implement this curriculum into your classroom in this professional development. So Charlene and I are super excited to bring this opportunity to you that you can take at your own pace. So this is going to be a very exciting recording for us.
And you can see on the screen here on this slide our email addresses. So we would love to hear from you. We kind of missed that a little bit in a recorded PD. So if you have any questions, please feel comfortable emailing that to us, charlene.cyber.org, linda.morgan@cyber.org. Okay, so you've met us, and now we're going to tell you a little bit about cyber.org before we get started. So at cyber.org, our vision is to build a future where the nation's cybersecurity needs are met by a knowledgeable, skilled, and passionate workforce. And we believe that classroom teachers are essential to this process. And since the majority of our team, and myself, are made up of former classroom teachers, we truly know and understand the impact that a classroom teacher can have. We have trained over 27,000 teachers, and we're excited now because you are a part of this. Some of you may have even been in some of our other trainings and are just wanting to learn a little bit more about this new course. And so we're really excited about that. All of our work, our professional development, and our curricula are funded by CISA, which stands for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And this means that we are able to provide all of our resources to K-12 teachers in the United States at no cost. Okay, so our goal for the rest of this PD is to introduce you to our course, Cybersecurity Basics, and we are going to focus specifically on lessons and activities for middle school students or students in grades 6 through 8. I know some schools have that broken down a little bit differently, but students in grades 6 through 8, and we're going to look at some lessons on personally identifiable information, making strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, and then CIA Triad. And then at the end of this PD, going to spend some time making sure that you know where to find these lessons. We're also going to do that at the beginning to make sure that you know exactly where to look to get access to everything and easily find it. Okay, so a little bit about cybersecurity basics. This course is an introductory course for students. We have lessons for students from kindergarten through 8th grade. And we worked really hard to make sure that this course could introduce cybersecurity topics that affect our everyday life in plain, simple language and have it accessible to everyone. This course can be taught in any order, and it can also be taught by any teacher. So we've divided the course into two primary domains. We have lessons under the security domain and then lessons that are under the digital citizenship domain. And lessons in the security domain explore the various ways that we protect data and information through people, processes, and technology. And then we also look at the types of attacks that must be defended against and the concepts that are used to secure information, networks, and physical assets. And then our lessons in digital citizenship explore how our actions affect the larger digital world. We look at things like ethics, laws, and policies and how that affects our digital life. And then also what it means to be an informed citizen. So before we go any further, we want to talk with you about where you can find our curriculum. You know, we started this PD by saying that we recommended you go ahead and get that access to Canvas. So if you've done that, you know, you waited, you have your Canvas access. Now, we're going to talk with you a little bit more about that, and I'm going to turn this over to Linda.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlene. So our curriculum access is set up through Canvas. That is our learning management system. And so you, as the teacher, when you sign up for a Canvas account, you become the student. That means that you are not going to enroll any of your students in our Canvas platform. That is to keep us safe from not collecting any of the students' PII. That's also to keep you as the classroom teacher safe, because if you enroll them in the same Canvas that you're enrolled in, that means they'll have all of the answers to all of the questions that you will put in front of them when you access the curriculum. But what this does mean is that you will be able to download any of the materials that you want, and you can put them into any learning management system that you are using in your classroom. Any of our teacher notes and worksheets and handouts and things of that nature are all converted to PDFs. And so those will go very nicely into different learning management systems if you want to put those in your Google Classroom, or you have an on-course classroom, or even if your school has their own Canvas account, those things will move over very nicely into those systems. The PowerPoints are in PowerPoint. They convert to Google Slides very nicely, very, very clean there. So we have tried to make our Canvas experience as user-friendly for you as possible so that it's very easy for you to take what you need and then give it to your students in the way that works best for your classroom. So, what I want to do is Charlene is going to stop sharing her screen, and then I am going to share my screen and just give you guys a little bit of a look at what you will see once you get into your Canvas account. So, I have already logged in. And so this is my dashboard view. And so whenever you first see your classes, they may look a little bit like this, a little dim, like they've got a color overlay on them. And if that's not popping, if that's not what you want, you can do exactly like you just saw me do. You'll come up here where it says dashboard all the way across to those three dots, and then you just unselect color overlay. And so now everything looks bright and fresh and ready to go. And one of the nice things is you'll notice that these classes are not in the same order for you as you see on my screen right here. But the awesome thing is that these are very customizable. You can pick up your courses and drag those around. Ones that you use all the time. I like Cybersecurity Basics, and I'm super into coding fundamentals and robotics in the classroom. So I have pulled those up to the top so that
Mhm.
every time I go to my dashboard, they are readily accessible. And
I
so,
know.
like Charlene said, oh, yeah, go ahead, Charlene.
Yes, I just noticed that. I love because our Canvas dashboards look very different from each other with the courses that we have pulled up at the top. So yeah, you can rearrange those any way to make that work for you.
Yep, very user friendly. And so, as you can see, when you click into Cybersecurity Basics, it is just like Charlene said. We have a security tab up top that has all of our security lessons. And you can see they are separated into the different topics that they cover. So these are the security lessons. And then when you hop over into digital citizenship, those lessons are also divided up into the different topics that they cover. You'll notice that also within each topic that is covered, when you click into that, they are further broken down by grade level. So you can get exactly the lesson at the level that you need. And a lot of our content is also available in Spanish. And so we are working very hard at cyber.org to get all of our content transferred over into Spanish to make that even more accessible to students from different cultural backgrounds. And so you'll have all kinds of fun exploring. When you get to a lesson that you want to download, when you click on the item, whether it be the teacher notes, you'll notice that that is downloading. I can get the slides as well, the handout, and so, depending on how you have your computer set up, you should be able to find all of those activities wherever you direct your downloads. For most of us, it is the downloads folder. I am in Google Chrome here today, and so you can see they've got the new feature of having that available. So, if I click on the PDF, it'll open in its own separate little tab. And look how cool this is. Look, everything is laid out. It's nice. It's beautiful. It's in a font that is super easy for the kids to read. There's that answer document that you definitely don't want them to have. So everything is laid out and very nice and very visually appealing for students to be able to look at. And so that was just a little sneak peek at the dashboard. So when you get access to your account, make sure that you go in and you play around with it and you get it set up in a way that works for you.
Hey, thank you, Linda. Okay, so now let me go back to sharing my screen and we'll look at some of these lessons in a little bit more detail. Okay, so as Linda showed you, you will have access to the teacher notes and the PowerPoints, and then any other additional handouts and answer keys. And so what we're going to start with first, before we go and dive into any of the lessons, is look at the teacher notes and all of the important details that we've included there. So what you're looking at right now, this is a cover page of this lesson here, but every single Cybersecurity Basics lesson has a cover page, and we'll look just a little bit more closely at the different components on this page. So this is like we've just zoomed into that cover page of the teacher notes. And first, what you're seeing here is the domain that the lesson belongs in. So earlier we said that Cybersecurity Basics is divided up into digital citizenship and security. And this lesson here is from digital citizenship. And then you'll also see the cybersecurity bundle topic. This one is personally identifiable information. Then next we have the lesson title, and this one is the risks and benefits of sharing PII. And then each lesson also has a focus question going to guide the lesson. In the overview section, you're going to see a quick, just 1 to 2 sentence summary of the lesson along with those lesson objectives, which we all know are so important. And then our lessons are split into 3 grade divisions. So we have lessons for K2, lessons for 3-5, and lessons for 6-8. It's important to note here that those grade level designations only appear on the teacher document. So on the PowerPoints or any PDF, anything that's student facing, we're not going to have that grade level marked. And that was done intentionally because you might feel that your students need to start with a 3-5 lesson for a certain topic. And your students might be really upset if they are in grade 6 through 8 and they're looking at a lesson that is marked 3-5. So that's not on there. They won't know, and that's perfectly fine if you're looking through a lesson and you think you want just a little bit more background before you teach that lesson, but to look at the 3-5 lesson. So we've also included the approximate time required to teach the lesson. Our K2 lessons are designed to take 15 to 30 minutes. 3-5 lessons are written to take about 30 to 45 minutes. And then our 6-8 lessons are written to take about 45 to 60 minutes for you to complete the entire lesson. And then we specifically point out cyber connections that are within the lesson. So in this one, we're looking at digital footprint and rules, laws, and regulations. And then again, our vision is we want to create a cybersecurity workforce. So we highlight cyber careers in our lessons, and this one is a cloud architect. So all of our lessons are written also to support our cybersecurity standards. And then you'll also notice lesson resources that are right there at the beginning. You can immediately see what you need to have ready beforehand. And Linda and I have talked about how this is so helpful when you're prepping for the lesson to just have it right there instead of trying to look through the whole lesson and find everything only to be teaching it and realize you've missed something important. So that's there for you at the beginning also. And then some background information to help provide support to you during the lesson. and then a section for cyber terms that students may be unfamiliar with. And sometimes as teachers, we're not familiar with that either. So that's there as a support as well. Okay, so what you'll notice in the teacher notes are some icons. We have puzzle pieces. So each part of the lesson has a puzzle piece. And these pieces come together at the end to help answer that focus question. Each lesson has a PowerPoint. So you're also going to see display slide number. And then as you can see here, the lessons are scripted. So this is just a guide. It's not a must say. It's not that you must do it this way, but these are suggestions if needed. I think if I was using this in the classroom, they would help me to prepare for the lesson beforehand as I was reviewing it. And then, of course, I would add my own little notes off to the side for things that I knew I might want to include in there that would be more applicable to my students or something they may have experienced earlier in the school year. Inside this teal box here, you'll also see a teacher note can help the lesson run more smoothly. And then we also have some possible student responses that are included throughout the teacher notes, and these are going to be in orange. So to conclude the lesson, we have a putting it all together section, and that's where you'll see each of those puzzle pieces have come together, and that's where students are able to answer that focus question and other final wrap-up questions. Then our optional extension activities. And this is a lot of fun here. If your students are really into the lesson and you want to spend a little bit more time on it, we have some ideas there that were exciting to us, but didn't fit within that time period of 45 to 60 minutes for the lesson, but are still great opportunities that you may want to still have your students go through. Okay, so I think we're ready now to start looking at some lessons. I would say that picked our favorite lessons, but they're kind of all our favorite lessons. So we've picked 4 great lessons. The first lesson that we're going to look at is titled The Risks and Benefits of Sharing PII. And these are, this lesson is the teacher notes that you were just looking at. And so in this, students are going to analyze various scenarios to discuss the risks and benefits of sharing personally identifiable information. Throughout their normal day, there are lots of opportunities where they're asked for PII. In some of those situations, it's necessary. And then there's other situations that they may think it's necessary to share it, but it really isn't. And so that's what we're really trying to create an awareness for. So this lesson, it starts with the scenario, and these are the actual slides that are included with the lesson. So if you're following along, you've made your Canvas account, you have this pulled up, that's what you're seeing. And so in this scenario, we have Lupe, and Lupe is looking at the information under profile on her school portal. A classmate asks her what she's looking at, and Lupe feels uncomfortable showing him the information. So this right here is the information that she was viewing, and you can see that information. So what do you think? You know, why was she uncomfortable with a classmate seeing it? What are some things on there that she may have not felt comfortable with someone who wasn't a close friend or someone that she knew well actually being able to know about her? So we pose that question to students, and then we also ask them, why do you think, though, that information, this personal information, is important to have in a school portal? Why would the school have to know that information? And so at this point, we're explaining to students that this information is known as personally identifiable information, and they will often hear that abbreviated as PII. And that information that we're seeing here, it's personal and it's unique to Lupe, and it tells very specific details about you. So some other places that we point out to students that may ask for PII, social media apps, doctor's office, online games, educational websites, online shopping sites, community sports teams. And we start this discussion with students. What type of PII would be found there, and why is that important? And then to discuss, the risks and benefits of sharing PII there. In many of our lessons, we have students either working in pairs or working in small groups so that they're comfortable expressing their ideas with one another before they move into a whole group setting. So this is one thing that a small group would have to discuss the following questions. For a doctor's office. So what kind of PII could be found in a doctor's office? And then why would the doctor's office need that PII about you? So what is the risk of sharing PII there? And then what is a benefit? So we look at somewhere that really needs that information and work really hard to protect that information, which is a doctor's office, compared to this next one, which is a social media app. So again, what type of PII could be found on a social media app? And then why would the organization, the app, need that PII? And then even if the app didn't require you to enter it, other types of information that students are actively sharing about themselves on that social media app. So what is the risk of sharing PII there? And then is there a benefit for sharing PII on a social media app? So having students really comparing the two, doctor's office, social media app, and answering the same questions about both of them. And then we have our scenario cards. So there's a set of cards that you can print off for your students, or we've put them here digitally, so you can do that as well. But what we're looking at are different types of scenarios that would require PII. So in this one, you have an online advertisement with a chance to win a gift card by entering some information. And so what students are going to do is they're going to come up with a verdict. They'll discuss these within their group and then come up with a verdict. Should they share the recommended PII there? So they have one for an online advertisement. The next one is for a online test at school. It says to verify that the information below is correct. And they would need the first name, last name, student number, and the student grade level. And then the online game, I like this picture because he looks like he's having a great time. But the first name, last name, grade, the birthday, and then your student ID. Submit a picture of your student ID to verify your age and your grade level. And then the last one is a registration for a youth sports league, which would need the student's first name, last name, grade, birthday, and a copy of the birth certificate. So at this point, we're going to recommend that you pause the video and you go to that Google form. And remember, you can find the link to the Google form if you check your email. You'll have an email from Eventbrite. Scroll down towards the bottom and you'll find the link to that Google form. But pause the video here, and there are 4 questions on the Google form that look just like the scenarios that you just saw on the screen, and give your verdict. Would you share PII in those situations? Okay, so hopefully you have gone through, looked at those scenarios, put in your verdict, and then at the end of our lessons, we have a section for putting it all together. And so there are 2 questions here after this lesson. What are some settings where it is necessary and appropriate to give your PII? And then what are some risks of sharing your PII? And if you'll pause the video here, and you can share a little bit about what you learned about sharing PII by answering these 2 questions on your Google form. And earlier we mentioned that the Cyber Career Spotlight for the PII lesson is a cloud architect. And a cloud architect is a cybersecurity professional who creates and designs information systems to keep classified and sensitive information secure. So in the lesson, there's a link that students can go to learn more about the different cybersecurity careers. It will tell them what types of certifications are needed or if a degree is needed. And I think Linda and I always get a little laugh because what students always want to know first is, what is the salary? How much money am I going to make? So that's salary range is included as well, along with those technical skills and then also soft skills that are important. So it gives a really great general idea of what is needed for this career. Okay, so we've done one lesson under digital citizenship, and now we're going to look at two lessons kind of bundled together under security. And before we do that, it brings us to our next topic, which is passwords at cyber.org. That's a big topic. We have a lot of conversation about passwords. We might be a little competitive in having super secure passwords because we know how important that is, and we want for your students to also know how important that is. And we know this is a common topic. You probably have heard about this again and again and again. Your school system may encourage you to change your password often and to make sure that it follows certain guidelines. But 8% of data is breached due to weak passwords. And we know we need a strong password. And we also know that aside from having a strong password, we also need to keep them a secret. And we've been told not to write them down. So you don't want to have it on a sticky note inside your laptop, or under your computer, or under your mouse pad. And then we need a different different password for every single account that we have online, which can be a lot. But it's an important conversation to have with other teachers and with your students because it's a direct threat to confidentiality. And I throw this in here because a friend had shared this with me on social media. I don't know about y'all, but I don't have any more passwords left in me. And I think that it's kind of funny because I try all the different combinations so I can still remember the password too, because I can't write it down. It's got to be a secret. It has to be long. But, we know that that's important. Okay, so we have a video that we're going to show you here. The video is a little bit dated, but I think it's still very true for what we might see today. So before I do, let me optimize sound to make sure you can hear it.
We've been hearing a lot about cybersecurity lately, largely because of what happened to Sony. Companies and individuals are more concerned about the safety and privacy of their information than ever. President Obama has unveiled a number of new proposals this week to crack down on hackers, and he plans to address this in the State of the Union speech on Tuesday. And it's great that the government is working on this, but the truth of the matter is we need to do a better job of protecting ourselves. The most popular password in the United States is password 123. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable. So today we sent a camera out on a Hollywood Boulevard to help people by asking them to tell us their password. And this is how that went.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's its name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. Have you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th.
Oh, nice. And what year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. So Jolie, 6, 12, 95.
Yes.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 468, and then Israel. It's only 3, but it's for me it's strong enough.
Ireland, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gemma, 1, 2, 3. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So
like what's a good Italian password?
my grandma's name.
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the important thing is they learned a.
I'm sorry, that video still cracks me up.
I know it's funny and scary all at the same time how easy it is to get that information. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and Linda's going to talk about a tool that we have that can help with those passwords.
Absolutely. So let me share my screen. There we go. And so this is our password strength tester. And so this is a very useful tool to use during this password lesson to actually try out some different passwords. So as you can see, whenever you type a password in, it comes up in plain text. And so the number one thing that we always tell students and teachers when they're using this tool is to not type in any actual passwords. But in exploring the different things that make a good password, the cool thing about the password strength tester is that it will actually show you how long it would take a malicious actor to hack or crack that password. And so I have typed in the word password in there, and you can see that that is actually very weak. It is cracked in 0 seconds. And so the interesting thing is that, we always talk about complexity. So maybe if I, mix this up a little bit, you can see because it recognizes that is just another iteration of the word password, this password gets cracked very quickly. And so this is an excellent tool to go in and test out these passwords. And actually, we have several lessons that relate back to this tool to test out sample passwords from those lessons to show how either strong or weak those passwords are. So this is a valuable tool that can definitely be used across our curriculum and is definitely a great tool to help remind students of how our passwords, even if we type in something rather complex, like you saw what I did with password there, that still may not be good enough. So we can talk about the differences between complex passwords and passphrases. And so it is a really good tool to be able to see that. So I got a little bit behind and I was trying to catch back up in the presentation. But there are actually a couple of examples in the presentation of good passwords where you would see that. Here we go. Now I'm in the right area. So again, this is a screenshot QR code on the screen there if you want to check that out real quick. But we see that, again, password, even if we mix it up, not super great. Here is a nice phrase, but it is still not quite long enough. And so it gets a moderate of 264 days. And so what we want you to do with this particular slide is there is a question in that Google form, and it provides the link to that password strength tester. We want you to play with that for a little bit, experiment with different passwords, different passphrases, the different types of complexity that we can bring in, uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, special symbols, and we want you to try to create the best password that you can. And then in that Google form, it asks the question, how long does the password strength tester tell you that it would take for a malicious actor to crack that password? So you're going to come up with the best password that you can, and you're going to tell us how long it would take to crack it. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video and play around with that, when you're finished, come on back and see us.
No, I can't wait to see how long it would take because we're looking for like centuries, right?
Absolutely.
We're not competitive or anything with that.
Oh, no, not at all. Oh my gosh. So I was showing our HOA the email address that I had made for the HOA, and I had come up with a passphrase for it. And they were all like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to remember this. This is so crazy. And I was like, okay, guys, but it would take 294 centuries for this passphrase to be cracked. They were like, you don't know what that means. And I'm like, you don't get it.
Yeah, so we're looking for like 295 centuries.
Oh, the gauntlet has been thrown. Come at me, bro.
Okay, so we've looked at that password strength tester, and I know some of you might still be trying to make that super strong, secure password, and that's great. I can't wait to see that. We have lessons that also go along with passwords in our passwords and beyond bundle. And we included this in here because passwords are so important. And the lessons in cybersecurity basics, you can teach them in any order and at any time. One question that we get asked from time to time is, well, what is a good lesson to start with? And I always think passwords and beyond this bundle is really great to start with, especially if, it's the beginning of the school year or even anytime in the middle of the school year and you just feel like your students need a little bit of a refresher of why making those strong passwords is so important and what the possible consequences are of not having a strong, secure password. So we have two lessons in that 6-8 bundle, multi-factor authentication and making strong passwords. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to talk just a little briefly about this first lesson, which is on multi-factor authentication. And in this lesson, students research the various factors where it says multi-factor. Well, what is multi-factor? What does that mean? And they learn how multi-factor authentication prevents unauthorized users, such as malicious actors, from gaining access to devices and accounts. So the focus question here is, what is a factor in multi-factor authentication? And students learn that malicious actors can easily steal important information about you online, from compromised passwords to even stolen PIN numbers. Multi-factor authentication makes it more difficult for them to access your accounts by adding that extra layer of security. So in this lesson, the instructional strategy that's suggested is a research carousel that's completed in small groups. And I love this activity. I've seen it done both on paper and digitally. I love the on paper version. And what you do with this is you have 5 factors. So you have 5 rounds, 5 groups, and each group has a sheet of large easel paper. And at the top of the easel paper, you're going to write the name of the factor before they get started. And so the first round, everyone looks at what their factor is, and they go ahead and they find, you have to have some time for them to research, but they find the definition of that factor and everyone writes it on their paper. Then at the end of time, each group switches papers. So now everyone has a new factor. And for the second round, they find examples of this new factor. Then for round 3, they switch papers again. Now they're looking at a new factor. They're going to take some time to look at what a group has written about the definition. They're going to take some time to read what another group has listed as the examples. And then now they're going to find some images of the factor. And I know this is where it's helpful if they're doing this digitally, because they can just put those images in, but we have some students who are such great artists that they can quickly sketch something there. And they switch papers again. For round 4, they take some time to read all the other information that's been written about the factor. And then they answer this question: how could a threat actor compromise that factor? And then at the end of that, they'll switch again. And for the last round, everyone is looking at any other important information about the factor that may have been missed by the other groups. They can add it there. And then those pictures, the easel paper, can be shared. You take some time at the end of class for each group, which would be round 5, to share what has been written about that factor. So it's really great to let the groups experience all 5 factors and find different pieces of information so that they're not always doing the exact same thing. They're not just looking at one factor. They're not all just writing, the definition and that's it. They get to experience all the different parts of it.
That's really cool. I really like that part. I love the interactiveness. I love the community feel to it, because the whole class is going to get to look at every factor and be responsible for a part. And so these would make really great posters to hang around your classroom, because they can be proud of the work that they did as a class to create these really cool looking posters.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. I mean, even if you wanted to take it outside of the classroom, put them in the hallway, and then other students could learn about it too. Other teachers or visitors to your school. Love that. The second lesson then takes them to making a strong password. And this lesson uses the password strength tester that Linda showed you earlier. So students have a lesson where it walks them through trying to create a strong password that would take a while to crack. And then we also have, the main part of this lesson is we have these sets of profile cards that students work in groups to analyze. They look at the password protection habits that each of these students have, and they talk about it. So what we're looking for here is, what did the student do right to secure their password, or what did the student do wrong? What could use some improvement there? The students can then use the password strength tester. They can enter that in and how strong it is and how long it would take for a malicious actor to crack that password. And then even look at, well, what if I added a little bit more onto the password? How much more could I put there for it to be super secure? And then if there's any advice, they could add that there for each of these students in the cards. And so we have 8 different scenarios total. And so this is a great place for you to pause the video and go to that Google form and find the question for the passwords and beyond lesson. And you're going to pick 2 of the profile cards and explain, just like what the students would do, what you think those students in the profile cards did right, or maybe what they did wrong to secure their passwords. And then just a brief little piece of advice that you might give them to improve their password security and protection habits. So again, that's another good place for you to practice using that password strength tester to see what could be done to make that password a little bit more secure. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing, and Linda's going to go through one of these lessons that I'm the most excited about and can't wait to hear about.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes. So let me get this going up here. So this next lesson that we want to highlight for you guys is definitely a more, I guess it's a headier topic. It's a little less as cut and dry as like I use passwords all the time, so I definitely know that I need a strong password, and it is that concept of the CIA Triad. And so in this lesson, again, we start with the focus question. And so the focus question for this particular lesson is, what are some consequences of failure in the CIA Triad? And this is interesting because the students in the very first, like they may not even know what the CIA Triad is, let alone what would be the consequences of a failure in that area. And so it's a very cool activity. If you like knot tying, we start with the nature of the CIA Triad and we relate it to a camping trip. What kind of things you would take with you, and bringing in those modern conveniences, things like trash cans or a device to hold a pot over the fire to be able to cook. And so we talk about how a tripod could do all of those things. And so, like Charlene said, we have our list of supplies that would be needed. And so for this one, each student is going to need pencils, a 36-inch piece of kitchen twine. We have an extension activity that if you're going to let the kids keep their tripod at the end, you would want them to be able to label each leg of the tripod for each part of the triad. And so additional materials might include little scraps of paper to make those labels, and then some transparent tape to be able to tape those labels onto each one of the pencils. And so the point in making the tripod is that, a tripod is only as good as its weakest leg. And so if one leg of the tripod no longer functions properly, then the whole thing is pretty wobbly and will definitely fall over. Another good thing that I like about tripods in general is that they tend to be sturdier than even four-legged chairs and things like that. So it's really cool to bring in that stability of the tripod itself in talking about the triad. And so this in the CIA Triad, the things to consider is that we need information to be confidential. Only people who should have access to that information should have access to it. A lot like Lupe's student information page from the other lesson, that would want to be kept confidential between Lupe, her family, and the school. We definitely don't want other people getting access to that kind of information. We also want to make sure that we're ensuring the integrity of that information. We wouldn't want somebody to be able to come in and do things like maybe mess with her student ID number or change her date of birth to make her either older or younger. We want to make sure that the information that we create, the integrity of it is protected, that that information is exactly what it is when we created it, when we send it. We want all of that to stay the same. And then the third part of the CIA Triad is availability. So we want that information to be available to us anytime that we need to access it. And so the activity, one of the activities for this lesson is a CIA Triad failure thinking links. And Charlene was again talking about, a lot of times we have students working in groups or pairs. And if you take a look at the lesson plan for this lesson, we see that the structure that is going to be employed in this case is a recorded round robin. And so the good news is that you won't waste a lot of trees with this activity, because you're only going to need one page per group. And so you would make enough copies of that thinking links for the CIA Triad that each group gets their own copy. And so what they would do is they would then select 3 different colored pencils to be able to create the key across the top, to create a color for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And so the page will start out with the first person in the group. The first person in the group would read that scenario, and then the group would talk about, is the scenario with Tyler a scenario where there is a failure in confidentiality, failure in integrity, or failure in availability. So once they come to a consensus on what part of the CIA Triad has failed the most, that person would then go ahead and color that box in the color of that particular failure. Then the colored pencils and the page pass to the next person in the group. That next person would read about Joseph's teacher, and they would talk about what sort of failure is going on in that scenario. And so the paper and the colored pencils would continue to be passed until all of the scenarios have been decided and colored in based on the failure that has happened. And so on our Google form, you are actually going to take a look at these scenarios, and you are going to decide whether they are a failure of confidentiality, integrity, or availability. And so on the Google form, you are going to, basically your answers are going to create a list. So if you read through the first scenario and you think that the failure is confidentiality, you would type in confidentiality, comma, read the next scenario, fill in its failure, and you'll keep going like that. So you'll create a list separated by commas that then we can go back and look and make sure that you have looked through all of the different scenarios. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video there to take a look at those scenarios, we'll see you in a second. So the career profile for this particular lesson is an information assurance analyst. Sorry. And this is a slightly different version of the card that Charlene showed you from the previous lesson for Cloud Architect. So really cool, and really quickly on the cyber.org webpage under career exploration, you can actually print all of these cards. You can download a full set of cards like the one that I showed you for information assurance analyst. And so these print out really nice 8x8 full color. I like to tell everybody that cyber.org did all of my classroom decorating, because what I did is I printed all of these cards out, laminated them, and then I hung them at my student computers. In my classroom, I had, a kind of a lab set up where the students would go to their computers. And so each computer that they went to had a different career profile. And so every time they sat down at the computer, they got to see a new career. And so, like Charlene said, median salary is definitely on the card there. All the students want to know what kind of money they could expect to be making. It also takes a look at the degrees required and then some common job duties for those careers. Because again, we really want to focus on building that workforce. And I liked having all of the career profiles printed out and in my classroom. That way, students would see all of the different careers available and they could get excited about them. So while we're really glad that they are highlighted in the lessons, you too could have a full set of cards in your classroom, or like Charlene said, in the hallway. That way everyone who passes by your classroom can get really excited about cybersecurity. And so those are available there. If you click on Cyber Career Profiles, this page will actually allow students to go through the digital copies of each career profile. So this is another resource where you could have them, research different careers. We've got a really great lesson that spotlights the careers themselves. And so these are there. I think there's what, Charlene, 24, 25 careers right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're making more all the time. So it's very exciting to see the different careers that are out there. And then again, that puzzle piece of putting the lesson all together. You'll wrap up by once again discussing the concept of confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the CIA Triad.
I love that lesson, Linda. I think that there might be some teachers who might see the CIA Triad as a topic that might be a little overwhelming if they weren't familiar with that. And I think this lesson is a great way for them to feel comfortable and take their time going through that. And students have some time also to work together and talk through that and kind of not argue, but really try to defend which part of the CIA Triad they think it applies to. So by the end of that, I think they have a really good idea of each of those parts and why they're so important.
Absolutely. I really kind of wish that I had it definitely when I was in the classroom. We participated in some Cyber Patriot competitions, and the CIA Triad is a very big part of that. And, you don't know what you don't know. We had a brief little lesson on it. There was no sort of hands-on activities. And so, if a teacher is doing something like that, or, really just covering cybersecurity in general, being able to talk about the CIA Triad and put those relevant examples in front of students, it is definitely helpful, and it really would have cemented in the minds of my students participating in those competitions why they exist and why cybersecurity is so important.
Okay, so we've had some great lessons, and now as we are wrapping up here, let me go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so at the very beginning, Linda walked you through where you could find cybersecurity basics on Canvas. And what we're going to do here as we're wrapping up is show where you can find the lessons that we through with you in this PD. So like I mentioned before, our Canvas dashboards look different from each other, which is great because you can move these courses around so that they're easy for you to access. But what I think is really great is we both have cybersecurity basics right here in the same place. So it's top row for both of us. So I'm going to click on cybersecurity basics to go into that course. And then I see my two different domains, security and digital citizenship. I'm going to click on security first because it's the first one. And this is where I'm going to find the passwords and beyond lessons. So you'll see right here, we have the 6.8 multi-factor authentication and then 6.8 making strong passwords. So if you wanted to do those lessons, you'd locate those lessons right there. And then lesson that Linda just went over with you on CIA Triad is actually right here in 6.8 security standard. So we have some lessons that we've written only for that 6.8 grade level, which CIA Triad, you'd understand, may not be appropriate for 3.5 K2. But right here, you would click on 6.8 security standards. And then here is where you would find that lesson. So the teacher notes, the slides, and then there is also a part 2 to that lesson. So you can go ahead and continue to expand on that with the second part of the lesson. So I'm sure that after hearing all of the awesomeness in that first lesson, you're going to want to get in there and look at all of that. So that's where you would find the Passwords and Beyond bundle and the CIA Triad that's under security. And then digital citizenship is where you're going to find the lesson on personally identifiable information. So that's going to be right here. And then you'll notice we also have a part 2 for that lesson. These topics are so important and it's hard to fit it all into that 60-minute lesson and then maybe 1 or 2 extensions. So we really want for students to be prepared and able to protect themselves and to be empowered with knowledge so that they know that they don't have to share all their information all the time when it is and is not appropriate to share. So now at the very end, and you looked at that Google form, there are some reflection questions. So to summarize everything, you are going to look through the lessons in Cybersecurity Basics. You know where to find them now in Canvas. And what lesson do you plan to implement first? Or if you're already using this course, what lesson do you plan to implement next? So take some time, look through those lessons, and then let us know, what do you plan on teaching for Security Basics? And then what would the implementation of the lesson look like in your classroom? And so we're not asking for a lesson plan or anything like that, but just a few sentences on things that you might change. If you were doing the multi-factor authentication lesson, does that lesson look like the lesson on paper, with the easel paper, or is that something you're going to want to do digital? Or how would you have your students do that to get the most out of it? So that's something that we want for you to have an opportunity to really think about the lesson so that you're ready to implement the lesson and you've considered some things that will make that successful for your class. So those 2 questions are right there at the bottom of the form. And you can pause the video here and come. I know those will take a little bit longer and come back to that. And we are just about at the end. So the next steps, the final steps here. Again, as a reminder, check your email for an email from Eventbrite. The subject line will probably be registration confirmation. Scroll down to find the link to the Google form under additional information. Answer the questions on the Google form. Complete the survey. Your feedback is very important to us. The very last question on that Google form has a link to a survey. We ask that you please fill that out. We would greatly appreciate that. And then there's a box to mark, did you complete the survey, yes or no? And then the fourth and final thing is when this PD window closes, we will check the Google Forms and those certificates will be emailed. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to email Linda or to email myself. We would love to hear from you. We are here to help you. Our emails are listed there. They're also on that Google form. And Linda, I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add as we're closing.
Well, the only thing that I would add is when you get that certificate, you'll see that, like Charlene said, this PD is going to be good for 90 minutes, and so you will have 1.5 hours of cybersecurity training. So you can go ahead and put that one in the PD file to show to your administration to show that you are learning and growing and trying to be the best for your students, because at the end of the day, that's really why Charlene and I are doing what we're doing. And so we hope that you guys have enjoyed this PD, and we really do hope that if y'all have any questions, anything that you want to share with us, you'll reach out over that email, because we love getting feedback on these lessons. And we love to know how you guys are using them in your classroom. So if you have any pictures or anything of anything that you are implementing, send those too, because we would definitely love to see it.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you so much for joining us throughout this PD, and we look forward to hearing from you, and we hope that you have a great rest of your school year.